The conference room felt smaller than usual. Monday morning light streamed through the windows, but nobody was looking outside. Everyone stared at Graham as he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. The entire leadership team sat frozen around the polished table. Then his eyes locked on mine. "Drew, you've become arrogant," he said slowly, letting the words hang in the air. "I'm demoting you to support staff. You need humility." Whispers erupted instantly. My throat tightened. My pulse hammered in my ears. I'd worked here for 6 years, built systems from scratch, sacrificed weekends and holidays. Now this. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, avoiding my gaze. I felt like I was drowning in front of everyone. Graham's face twisted into something that looked almost like satisfaction. He leaned forward, placing both palms flat on the table. "And your raise," he added, his voice sharp. "Consider it gone." The room went silent. My hands clenched under the table, nails digging into my palms. I forced myself to breathe. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The engine wasn't running. I just stared at the dashboard, replaying Graham's words over and over. 6 years. 6 years of my life poured into Raventech. I'd missed birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners. I built the software backbone that kept this company running. And this was my reward. Humiliation in front of the entire leadership team. My chest felt tight, like something was crushing it from the inside. I couldn't go back in there. Not yet. Not with everyone knowing what just happened. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I almost ignored it, but the notification caught my eye. It was from a blocked number. I unlocked the screen and read the message. "You weren't demoted for humility. I can prove it." My heart skipped. I stared at the words, reading them again. Who was this? How did they know? My finger hovered over the reply button, but before I could type anything, another message appeared. The second message came through immediately. "Graham stole credit for your project. He wants you gone before the product launch. Meet me if you want proof." I felt a chill run down my spine. Stole credit. My project had been in development for 18 months. It was mine from the first line of code. But Graham had been involved in the later stages, reviewing updates, sitting in on demos. Could he really have stolen it? My mind raced back through every meeting, every email, every presentation. Graham always hovered close, asking detailed questions, taking notes. I thought he was just being thorough. But what if it was something else? I typed quickly. "Who are you?" No response. 5 minutes passed, 10. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a file attachment. The name read Evidence 1 PNG. My hands trembled as I tapped to open it. The image loaded slowly, line by line. And when I saw what it was, my stomach dropped. It was an email thread. My email thread. The screenshot showed messages from my account, emails I never sent, early drafts of my software concept, design blueprints, technical specifications, all forwarded to Graham's private email address. Dates ranged from 8 months ago to just 3 weeks back. My breath caught. I scrolled through the image, examining every detail. The sender was definitely my email, but I never sent these. I would remember. These were my private working files, stored in folders I hadn't shared with anyone. How did they end up in Graham's inbox? Then it hit me. Someone accessed my account, someone with admin privileges, someone who could log in as me without a password. My hands were shaking now, not from fear but from anger. Graham didn't just take credit. He actively stole my work piece by piece and made it look like I gave it to him willingly. I screenshotted the evidence and saved it to 3 different places. Then I typed back to the mystery contact. "How did you get this?" The reply came fast. "I work in it. Meet me tonight, 7 p.m., coffee shop on Elm Street, come alone." The coffee shop was quiet when I arrived. Only a few people sat scattered around, heads down in laptops. I ordered a black coffee and sat in the back corner facing the door. At exactly 7, a woman walked in. She was young, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail. She wore a Raventech badge on her jacket. She spotted me immediately and walked over. "Drew?" she asked quietly. I nodded. She sat down across from me, glancing around nervously. "I'm Mila Reyes. I work in it." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I sent you those screenshots." I leaned forward. "How did Graham get into my account?" Mila's face tightened. "He pressured me, told me it was urgent, said he needed access to verify some security protocols. I didn't want to, but he's a director. I thought I had no choice." She looked down at her hands. I gave him admin access 3 months ago. I'm so sorry. My jaw clenched. 3 months, she nodded. He's been in your files ever since, copying everything. I sat back trying to process it. Then Mila leaned closer. There are logs, she whispered. Hidden, but I can get them. The next morning I went straight to HR. I needed this on record. Paige Wren, the HR director, sat behind her desk with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. I explained everything, the demotion, the stolen files, Graham's access to my account. I even showed her the screenshot Mila sent. Paige listened, nodding occasionally, but her expression never changed. When I finished, she folded her hands on the desk. Drew, these are serious accusations, she said slowly. Do you have proof that Graham intentionally stole your work? I blinked. I just showed you the email forwards, she shook her head. That only shows emails were sent. It doesn't prove intent. Graham could argue you shared those files voluntarily. My frustration boiled over. I never sent them. My account was accessed without my knowledge. Paige leaned back. Then you'll need it to confirm that, and even if they do, Graham has influential friends on the board. She paused, lowering her voice. Don't pick a fight you can't win, Drew. I stared at her, stunned. She wasn't going to help, she was protecting him. I left the building and drove straight to a law office downtown. Vanessa Cole came highly recommended by a former coworker. She was sharp, direct, and didn't waste time on pleasantries. I sat across from her desk and laid out everything. The demotion, the stolen work, Mila's confession, HR's refusal to act. Vanessa listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me. You have the beginning of a case, she said, but you need more. Right now, it's your word against a director with board connections. We need undeniable evidence. I nodded. Mila said she can get server logs. Vanessa's eyes sharpened. Good, get those, also. Document every interaction with Graham from here on out. Emails, meetings, everything. She paused, studying me. Do you trust anyone in leadership? I thought about it. Most of the leadership team had sat silent during my demotion. But there was one person, Riley Knox, senior developer, blunt, honest, didn't play politics. Maybe one, I said. Vanessa nodded. Then talk to him, you'll need allies. I found Riley in the break room the next afternoon pouring coffee that looked thick enough to stand a spoon in. He glanced up when I walked in. Heard about your demotion, he said flatly. That's rough. I closed the door behind me. I need to talk to you privately. Riley raised an eyebrow but nodded. We moved to an empty conference room. I told him everything, the stolen files, the admin access, Graham's plan to present my work as his own. Riley listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, then he sighed. Graham did the same thing to me 4 years ago. My eyes widened. What? Riley nodded slowly. I built a data analytics tool, took me a year. Graham took credit, got promoted, and I got nothing. I almost quit. He paused, his jaw tightening. But I kept recordings. I sat up straighter. Recordings. Riley pulled out his phone, scrolling through old files. I recorded a conversation at a company party. Graham was drunk, bragging to some guys from sales. He hit play. Graham's voice came through, slurred but clear. I break them so they remember who runs this place. I listened to the recording 3 times. Each time, Graham's words sank deeper. I break them so they remember who runs this place. He wasn't just taking credit. He was actively destroying people who threatened his power. Riley pocketed his phone. I kept it as insurance, never used it, didn't think anyone would care. He looked at me seriously. But if you're going after him, I'm in. If we're doing this, we go big. I felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about everyone Graham had crushed under his ego. We need everything, I said. Logs, recordings, emails, anything that proves a pattern, Riley nodded. I'll dig through my old files, there's more where that came from. We shook hands. For the first time since the demotion, I felt like I wasn't alone. That night I texted Mila, can you get those server logs? Her reply came an hour later. Working on it, meet me tomorrow, same place. Things were moving fast now. And there was no turning back. Mila looked exhausted when she arrived at the coffee shop the next evening. She slid a USB drive across the table. Everything's on here, she said quietly. Server logs going back 6 months. It shows every time Graham accessed your account. I picked up the drive carefully like it might explode. What exactly is on here? Mila pulled out her laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Timestamps, IP addresses, file transfers. Look at this one. She pointed to a line highlighted in yellow. February 14th, 2:13 a.m. Graham logged into your account from his home network. He transferred 12 files to an external drive. I stared at the screen. An external drive, Mila nodded. Registered to a Lauren Rourke, I frowned. Who's that? Mila's expression darkened. Graham's wife. My stomach twisted. He didn't just steal my work. He moved it off company servers entirely, probably to cover his tracks or sell it separately. This was bigger than I thought. Can I keep this? I asked, holding up the USB. Mila nodded. Just be careful. If Graham finds out I gave you this, I'm done. I met her eyes. I won't let that happen. 2 days later, chaos erupted. I was at my new desk in the support staff area answering basic help desk tickets when a junior developer named Corey sprinted over. His face was pale. Drew, something's wrong with your project. The code's completely corrupted. My heart stopped. What? Corey pulled up his laptop, showing me the repository. Entire modules were missing. Functions were broken. It looked like someone had taken a sledgehammer to the codebase. When did this happen? I asked, scanning the commit history. Corey pointed to a timestamp from last night. Someone pushed an update at 11:47. It overwrote everything. I clicked on the commit details. My blood ran cold. The commit ID traced back to a specific device. Graham's laptop. He didn't just steal my work. He sabotaged it. Probably to make me look incompetent, to justify the demotion, to erase any proof that I built it in the first place. My hands clenched into fists. Corey looked terrified. What do we do? I forced myself to stay calm. Back up what's left. I'll handle this. I grabbed my phone and texted Vanessa. He sabotaged the code. I have proof. The next morning, an email went out to the entire company. The CEO, Marcus Langley, announced a private review meeting scheduled for the following week. Key investors would attend. The purpose: a major product demonstration. My product. Except Graham's name was listed as the lead presenter. My chest tightened as I read the email twice. He was really going to do it. Stand on that stage in front of investors and executives and present my work as his own. The work he stole. The work he sabotaged to make me look incompetent. The rage I'd been holding back finally broke through. I forwarded the email to Vanessa, Riley, and Mila. Then I typed a message in our group chat. He's not getting away with this. Riley responded immediately. What's the plan? I took a deep breath. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, we're going to that meeting and we're bringing everything. Vanessa replied, I'll prepare the evidence presentation. Drew, you need to stay calm. Let the facts speak. I closed my eyes, steadying myself. 1 week. I had 1 week to make sure Graham's lies fell apart in front of everyone who mattered. He won't see it coming. Vanessa worked late into the night preparing our case. I met her at her office where she had spread documents across a massive table. We need a timeline, she explained, pointing to a poster board. Something clear and undeniable. She walked me through it step by step. February. Graham pressures Mila for admin access. March through May. Repeated unauthorized logins to Drew's account, file transfers to external drive registered to Lauren Rourke. June, demotion announced publicly, followed by code sabotage from Graham's device. July, scheduled investor meeting where Graham plans to present stolen work. Vanessa tapped the board. This isn't just theft, it's a coordinated effort to destroy your credibility and steal intellectual property. She handed me a small recording device. Next time you talk to Graham, record it. We need him in his own words. I turned the device over in my hands. You think he'll admit it? Vanessa's smile was sharp. Arrogant people always do, just give him the opportunity. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of what was coming. This was it. No more playing defense. It was time to set the trap. I walked into Graham's office the next afternoon. He looked up from his computer, surprise flashing across his face. Drew, didn't expect to see you here. I closed the door behind me and sat down. The recorder was in my pocket, already running. I wanted to talk, I said calmly, about the demotion. Graham leaned back, folding his arms. What about it? I forced my voice to stay steady. I think I understand now. You were right. I was arrogant. I needed to be taken down a notch. His expression shifted slightly, a flicker of satisfaction. Good, that's growth, Drew, I nodded. I just want to move forward, no hard feelings. I'll stay in support staff, keep my head down. Graham's smirk widened. That's smart. You know, leadership isn't for everyone. Some people are just better suited to follow. He leaned forward. I've reshaped a lot of destinies in this company. It's what I do. People like you need people like me to keep things in order. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from reacting. I get it now, I said quietly. Graham nodded, satisfied. Good, now get back to work. I stood and walked out, my hand gripping the recorder in my pocket. Every single word recorded. 2 days later, whispers started spreading through the office. Nobody knew where they came from, but suddenly people were talking. Did you hear Graham's been taking credit for other people's work? I heard he got someone fired just for challenging him. Apparently there are recordings. I watched from my desk as employees huddled in break rooms, glancing nervously toward Graham's office. Upper management started asking questions. I saw Riley slip into the CEO's assistant's office with a flash drive. Vanessa had been busy too, sending anonymous emails to key board members with just enough information to spark curiosity. The whispers grew louder. By lunchtime, Graham's allies were distancing themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with him if the rumors were true. Then, just before the end of the day, Graham stormed out of his office. His face was red, jaw clenched. He marched straight toward my desk, and every head in the room turned. He stopped in front of me, glaring down. You think you're clever, he hissed. I looked up calmly. I don't know what you're talking about. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I can end your career in this industry with one phone call. I held his gaze and smiled slightly. We'll see. Graham's threat hung in the air, but I didn't flinch. He stared at me for another moment, then turned and stormed back to his office, slamming the door. Around me, coworkers exchanged nervous glances. Riley walked past my desk and muttered under his breath, "Nice." That evening, I met with Vanessa one last time before the investor meeting. She reviewed everything we had. Server logs, recordings, email evidence, the sabotaged code commits, testimony from Mila and Riley. This is airtight, she said confidently. But we need to time it perfectly. Let Graham start his presentation. Let him commit fully to the lie, then we move. I nodded, feeling my pulse quicken. What if Marcus shuts us down before we can present? Vanessa shook her head. He won't, not in front of investors. He'll want to hear us out to avoid looking negligent. She handed me a folder. Keep this with you. If anything goes wrong, you have backups. I took the folder, feeling its weight. This was everything. My career, my reputation, my future, all coming down to one meeting. I looked at Vanessa. Thank you, she gave me a firm nod. Let's go take him down. The investor meeting room was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A long conference table stretched down the center, surrounded by leather chairs. Investors in expensive suits chatted quietly, sipping coffee. The board members sat at the head of the table. Marcus, the CEO, stood near the projector screen, looking polished and confident. Graham entered, carrying a sleek presentation folder. He smiled at everyone, shaking hands, playing the part perfectly. I sat in the back with Riley and Mila, our evidence folders hidden in bags. My heart pounded. Then Graham stepped up to the front. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm excited to present a breakthrough software solution that will revolutionize our logistics operations. He clicked to the first slide, my design, my work. I clenched my fists under the table. Then the door opened. Every head turned. Vanessa Cole walked in, dressed sharply, carrying a leather briefcase and a stack of folders. She walked straight to the front of the room. Graham's face paled. "Excuse me," Vanessa said calmly. "Before you begin, there's something the board needs to see." Marcus frowned. "Who are you?" Vanessa handed him a business card. "Vanessa Cole, attorney representing Drew Harrington. I have evidence of intellectual property theft, corporate misconduct, and sabotage that directly relates to this presentation." Gasps rippled through the room. Graham's face turned white. "This is ridiculous," he stammered. "She has no right to interrupt." Marcus held up a hand. "Let her speak." Vanessa moved to the projector and plugged in her laptop. What you're about to see is a timeline of events proving that Mr. Graham Rourke stole the work of Drew Harrington, sabotaged the original project, and manipulated his demotion to take full credit. She clicked to the first slide. The server logs appeared on screen, timestamps, IP addresses, file transfers. Vanessa walked the room through every detail. February 14th, 2:13 a.m. Graham accessed Drew's account without authorization and transferred proprietary files to an external drive registered to his wife, Lauren Rourke. She played the recording of Graham bragging at the bar. His voice filled the room. "I break them so they remember who runs this place." Investors exchanged shocked looks. Board members leaned forward. Graham stood frozen, his face drained of all color. Vanessa continued, "Here's further evidence." She nodded to Mila, who stood and walked to the front. Mila's hands shook, but her voice was steady. "I'm Mila Ray's IT technician. Graham pressured me into giving him admin access to Drew's account. I have the server logs proving he logged in repeatedly over 3 months." She pulled up the data on screen, highlighting each unauthorized access. The room was silent except for the hum of the projector. Then Riley stood. "I'm Riley Knox, senior developer. 4 years ago, Graham stole my work the same way. I kept recordings." He played another clip of Graham laughing with colleagues about getting rid of dead weight. The board members' faces hardened. One investor stood abruptly. "This is unacceptable." Vanessa clicked to the final slide. The sabotaged code commits. "Last week, Graham intentionally corrupted Drew's project using his own laptop. The commit ID traces directly back to his device." She looked at Graham. "This wasn't just theft. This was a deliberate attempt to destroy a colleague's career." Marcus stood slowly, his expression stone cold. He turned to Graham. "My office. Now." Graham opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked around desperately, but no one met his eyes. Finally, he walked out, shoulders slumped. The room remained silent after Graham left. Marcus followed him out, closing the door behind them. Investors whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads in disbelief. I sat frozen, barely breathing. 20 minutes passed. Then Marcus returned alone. He stood at the front of the room, composed but visibly shaken. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. After reviewing the evidence, I am announcing the immediate termination of Graham Rourke for gross misconduct, intellectual property theft, and manipulation of company systems." Murmurs spread through the room. Marcus continued, his voice firm. "Raventech does not tolerate this behavior. We will be launching a full internal investigation. Any other involved parties will be held accountable." His eyes flicked briefly to Paige, the HR director, who sat stiff and pale in her chair. She didn't look at anyone. Marcus cleared his throat. "This meeting is postponed. We'll reschedule once we've addressed these issues internally. Thank you for your patience." Investors began filing out, some stopping to shake Vanessa's hand. Riley clapped me on the shoulder. Mila smiled weakly, relief flooding her face. Marcus approached me. "Drew, can we talk privately?" I followed Marcus to his office. The door closed behind us and he gestured for me to sit. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed, looking tired. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I should have seen what was happening. I didn't." I stayed silent, letting him continue. "Graham manipulated a lot of people, myself included, but that's no excuse." He paused. "HR is being investigated as well. Paige Wren has been placed on administrative leave pending a full review. If she helped cover for Graham, she's done." I nodded slowly. It was the right move, but it didn't erase what had happened. Marcus straightened. "I want to make this right, Drew. You deserve more than an apology." He walked around his desk and pulled out a folder. "I'm offering you Graham's former position, Director of Software Development, full project control, salary increase, benefits, everything." I stared at the folder. A week ago, this would have felt like a dream. Now it felt complicated. I looked up at Marcus. "I have a condition." He raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." I took a breath. "I want new policies, real protections for employees against retaliation and intellectual theft, and I want accountability at every level." Marcus studied me, then slowly nodded. "Done." Marcus called an emergency board meeting that afternoon. I sat in the back, watching as he presented my proposal. New employee protections, transparent reporting channels for misconduct, third-party audits of HR decisions, mandatory training for leadership on intellectual property and retaliation policies. The board members listened, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. One older board member spoke up. "These policies will require significant oversight." Marcus nodded. "Yes. And they're necessary. What happened to Drew could happen to anyone here. We failed him. We won't fail again." Another board member glanced at me. "Will you be overseeing implementation?" I stood, my voice steady. "If that's what's needed, yes." The board exchanged looks. Then one by one they voted. Unanimous approval. Relief washed over me. This wasn't just about my career anymore. It was about making sure no one else had to go through what I did. After the meeting, Marcus shook my hand. "You've earned this, Drew. Welcome to leadership." As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Thank you, you gave me the courage to come forward." I frowned, typing back. "Who is this?" The response came quickly. "Meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything." I met the mystery contact at a quiet park bench the next afternoon. A woman approached, mid-30s, professional but anxious. She sat down beside me. "I'm Lydia Shaw," she said. "I used to be Graham's assistant." I blinked. "You're the whistleblower," she nodded. "I sent you the first message. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Lydia explained everything. She'd worked directly under Graham for 2 years. She watched him steal credit from multiple employees, manipulate reviews, sabotage projects. When she refused to help him frame another developer, he fired her on the spot. "I kept records," she said. "Emails, memos, recordings. I didn't know what to do with them until I saw what he did to you." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry I didn't come forward sooner." I shook my head. "You came forward when it mattered. That's what counts." She looked at me, hopeful. "Is there any chance I could come back? I loved working at Raventech. I just couldn't work for him." I smiled. "I'm the new director of software development, and I'm rebuilding my team. If you want the job, it's yours." Lydia's eyes filled with tears. She nodded quickly. "Thank you." We shook hands. Justice was finally complete. 2 weeks later, news broke that Lauren Rourke, Graham's wife, had filed a lawsuit against him. Apparently, she had no idea he'd been using her name to register external storage devices for stolen corporate files. The scandal exploded across industry blogs and local news. Graham's career was over. Paige, the former HR director, was officially let go after the internal investigation confirmed she had ignored multiple complaints about Graham over the years. Raventech issued a public statement committing to transparency and employee protection. Slowly, the company began to heal. I spent my first weeks as director rebuilding trust. I met with every team member individually, listening to concerns, addressing fears. Riley became my right hand, helping restructure workflows. Mila was promoted to lead IT security. Lydia returned as my executive assistant, managing communications and coordinating projects. One afternoon, Marcus stopped by my office. "The investors want to reschedule the product demo," he said. "They want you to present." I looked at him, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. "I'll be ready," he smiled. "I know you will." For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The storm was over, and I was still standing. The company-wide meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. The entire staff packed into the large auditorium, buzzing with nervous energy. Marcus stood at the podium, welcoming everyone and acknowledging the difficult weeks we'd all endured. Then he called me to the stage. I walked up slowly, my heart pounding but my steps steady. I stood where Graham had stood months ago, looking out at the sea of faces. Some were curious, some were supportive, some were still skeptical. I took a breath and began. "A few months ago, I was publicly demoted in front of the leadership team. I was told I needed to learn humility." I paused, letting the words settle. "But humility isn't taught through humiliation. It's taught through respect, through listening, through valuing the people who make this company work every single day." Heads nodded. I continued. "I'm launching a new program called the Innovators Initiative. It's designed to support young developers, protect intellectual property, and ensure that no one at Raventech is ever silenced or stolen from again." Applause started slowly, then built into a wave. People stood. The room filled with cheers. I looked out at them, at Riley, Mila, Lydia, Marcus, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, not arrogance, Just quiet, honest pride. This was my company now, and I was going to protect it.